Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. Today, we're going to take a look at the very unique relationship between the United States, Taiwan, and China. My guest today is an expert on this topic. Dr. Michael Soon is an associate professor at the Citadel. He is a veteran of the Taiwanese Army, retiring as a full colonel. Dr. Soon is the author of Hedging China Threat, U.S.-Taiwan Relations Since 1949. His research interests are East Asian security and politics, U.S. China relations, and U.S. security policy in Asia. He teaches East Asian affairs and international politics. Dr. Michael Soon, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for the invite.
I appreciate you being with me. Let's dive right into it. Why did you write this book, Hedging China Threat, U.S.-Taiwan Relations Since 1949?
And you can see that I'm Taiwanese and I love my home country. And I have been in the United States since 2015 and have come to the love America. And I want to keep my both country safe by offering my long-time observation and insight to keep peace, across the Taiwan Strait. And as you mentioned that the cross-strait relations is the most controversial topic in the world today. But when I talk to a lot of the American, they do not really know the complex of bilateral relations. And particularly when I served in Taiwan Army in one of the offshore islands in 1996, at the time during the Taiwan Strait crisis. And I accompanied with my commander-in-chief in Taiwan. We reviewed the Taiwan military preparation and to respond to China military threats. And I remember we are requested to write a will in case we die on the battles. But when I go deeper, I went to the graduate school and I taught in the National Defense University. After my retirement, I began to know that the complex and also that the China do not want to go to war with Taiwan, and the U.S. now want to go to war as well. So I decided, particularly the year 2020, I decided to write this book. So mainly based on the declassified documents. And I hope that this book can explain the complex relations and particularly the U.S. security relation with Taiwan under China threat. So that's the main reason I wrote this book.
Very good. We need all of the observers and suggestions on how to maintain peace across the Taiwan Strait. There's no doubt about that. Well, let me ask you, well, first off, very briefly, what is the Taiwan Relations Act and the One China policy?
Okay. In 1979, President Jimmy Carter, he decided to shift the diplomatic recognition from the Republic of China. So Republic of China is Taiwan, formal name, to the People's Republic of China. And at the time that U.S. Congress was very concerned about Taiwan's security, so they decided to enact the Taiwan Relations Act. And I remember that when the Carter announced the sever of diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and a lot of students took to the street to protest. We thought that we might end up like Vietnam's. And the Taiwan Relations Act is regulated the U.S. Foreign policy with Taiwan. And it required the U.S. government to have a policy to provide Taiwan with a defense weapon system and also maintain the capacity of the U.S. government to receive any force against Taiwan. Of course, our biggest rival at the time was the People's Republic of China. And regarding your question about the One China policy, And in reality, the U.S., China, and Taiwan all had their different interpretation of the One China policy. For the U.S. government, the One China policy is focused on the PRC was the sole legal government of the China. But the U.S. government did not give in to the PRC demand that it recognize China's sovereignty over Taiwan. But for the People's Republic of China, and they recognize that there is only one China, and despite the division between China and Taiwan. And for Taiwan, under our constitution, as I mentioned, that our formal name of Taiwan is Republic of China, and it is sovereignty cover both mainland China and Taiwan. But at the current stage, these two parts have been separated. And however, our ruling Democratic Progressive Party, they rejected the One China principle. This is another reason the tension between Taiwan and China have been escalated because the Chinese government view the current administration try to move toward Taiwan independence.
Mhm. And this is such an important area that we need to focus on to make sure that there is no conflict between China, People's Republic of China and the Republic of China. It's just is absolutely critical that we do this. Now, one thing was done, the tensions between the United States and China had gotten so bad in 2024. President Xi and President Biden put a sort of a hotline from one to the other. So in the event there was some misunderstanding, they could talk to each other. What other recommendations would you make to help defuse the tension and reduce the likelihood of some type of invasion by China onto Taiwan?
Okay, my recommendation, particularly for the current U.S. administration under the President Biden's, I believe that the stabilizing the U.S.-China relation is very crucial. And also that regarding the triangle relation, U.S.-Taiwan and China relations, I think the President Biden or the future President of the United States, and he should spread his strong desire for peaceful cross-strait relations, and also urge that China should scale back its military activity around Taiwan. Another recommendation I would suggest for the U.S. government, and Washington should refrain from overshow of military support for Taiwan, because to China it is a very sensitive issue. And also that particularly if you observe when former Speaker Nancy Pelosi visit Taiwan, it caused another crisis. And I would say that meeting between the U.S. and Taiwanese official do not have to be made public. They can meet in more private approach, and don't have to be made public because it will cause a lot of tension, conflicts. And I think more importantly, that what U.S. government can do for making peace between Taiwan and China is encourage the dialogue, particularly top leaders of Taiwan and China, to express their differences and see any cooperation between the two sides. I think that would be very helpful to contribute peace across the Taiwan Straits.
We need to explore every avenue to see if we can have a peaceful conclusion to this standoff that's gone on really since 1949. Well, you're watching Global Connections, which is a privately funded, independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guest. We'd invite our viewers to go to our website at www.globalconnectionstelevision.com to view previous programs. Also, if you're involved with a PBS or community access television station or an intra-campus television hookup at an educational institution, or you just have a computer or a podcast, you like our shows and you would like to share them, please feel free to do so. Global Connections Television is provided at no cost as a public service to help us better understand international issues and how they impact our lives. Today, we're talking about the very delicate relationship between China, Taiwan, and the US. And my guest today is an expert on this topic. Dr. Michael Soon is an associate professor at the Citadel. His most recent book is Hedging China Threat, US-Taiwan Relations Since 1949. We're talking about this situation with China, and I was thinking back, I think it was in 1997 when Hong Kong had a negotiation to turn Hong Kong, which had been autonomous from really located obviously right on in China, but still was separate. And they had a special administrative status, as I recall, SAS or SARS. And that seemed to work for a couple of years. But as I recall, they were going to allow Hong Kong to continue its economic activities, elect its own political leaders. But then China started reneging or changing the agreement. Is that something that Taiwan is concerned about if they were ever to say, well, we'd like to work up some special administrative regional situation, but we're a little worried about China and what they might do to break the arrangement?
Yes, most Taiwanese worry about the one country, two system. However, the model of Hong Kong is a different from the U.S. China and Taiwan relations. And Hong Kong handover from the United Kingdom was bound by the treaty. And the PRC, however, never ruled Taiwan for a single days. So Taiwan in de facto is an independent country. If Taiwan accept the one country, two system, Taiwan will very likely end up like Hong Kong. So therefore, there is no way that Taiwanese will accept the Hong Kong models. We did have a survey about a few years ago. More than 90% of the Taiwanese say no to the one country, two system. So I don't think that the people of Taiwan will accept the Hong Kong models.
I think you're right. I don't think they would either. I seriously doubt that that they would want to do that. Well, as you look at this situation with Taiwan and China, many observers have said that they think that one of the main reasons that the Chinese has not actually had a military invasion of Taiwan, well, there are a couple of reasons. One, Taiwan is well armed, no doubt about that, as you know it much better than I do. But the second reason is that it would be such a bloody conflict that it would destroy probably most of the infrastructure of Taiwan, and an irrational, illogical invasion of Taiwan could actually, I'll go as far as saying, maybe destroy the economic system around the world, because China, the US, Taiwan are all critical players in this. How does that play into this? Do you think that China is worried about upsetting the economic equilibrium?
Yeah, okay, I think this is a very good question. Particularly, first I want to answer the how devastating would Taiwan Strait conflict be? And according to the CSIS, they conduct a war games simulation of the China invasion of Taiwan in the year 2026. And they come up with the pretty conservative estimate. If the war happened across the Taiwan Strait, and the U.S. Navy would lose will lose two African carriers and 10 to 20 large service ships, and more than that, 3,000 American soldiers will be killed in 3 weeks of conflict, only 3 weeks of the battles. And for China, they will suffer even more. They will had around the 10,000 troops be killed, and lose more than 150 aircrafts and more than 130 major ships. For Taiwan, also will cause a lot of casualties. And all our destroyers and frigates in the Navy will be sunk. Even Japan will likely to involve in the conflicts. So more than 100 combat aircrafts and 26 warships. So that's why for China, they have been very cautious. Okay, and should they attack Taiwan or not? And they prepare, they push, they modernize their military forces. They strengthen their military exercise. But for Xi to finalize their decision to attack Taiwan, I think he had to think twice, because they know that the price is too high for him to bear responsibility. So I do believe that in recent years, China military preparation is mainly for deterrence and coercion, not for invasions.
That's a promising note.
Yeah.
I like that much better than an invasion. That we really do not need that whatsoever. No, that's off the table. Well, Taiwan has been I think Taiwan's something like the 13th largest economy in the world. It's just remarkable for a small area of the world to be an economic power to a large degree. But Taiwan also produces a large number of the semiconductors that are used around the world. And as I recall, there's a plant, one of the largest semiconductors on Taiwan. They're coming to the United States. They're building a plant in Arizona, if memory serves. Is there some defensive move with that plant moving, do you think?
Yeah, okay, and this was a good defense move by the US to build the prems in case that there's a conflict in Taiwan. And I believe that, if China occupy Taiwan, and this will give the Chinese Communist regime control of the Taiwan high-tech industry. And this is going to disrupt the global supply chain of the advanced chip. As Bill, you mentioned that the Taiwan built a micro plants in Arizona in 2022. And currently they are around over 2,200 employees, and half of them are from Taiwan. I think that in the future, and the US and Taiwan, they should strengthen their technological operation. And we also know that the US government try to help Taiwan military, strengthen Taiwan, the military industrial complex, so we can have the capacity to advance, to develop our advanced weapon system. Because every time we purchase the weapon systems from the United States, China complained about it. Okay, and so I do believe that Taiwan should have the capacity of building our defense military complex. So in times of conflicts, and we can fight our own battle against China.
If there were a conflict, it would be a lose-lose situation. It would be an absolute disaster. And not only in that part of the world, but it would have reverberations all around the world. And that's certainly something we don't want to see happen. Well, as you move forward, one thing that some of the military observers have said that they're concerned about, you were talking about the simulation and how many aircraft carriers the United States will lose, and how many troops, that type of thing, if there were some type of conflict. And one of the things that's been brought up is that people are concerned about China's ability to disrupt the communications between or among the U.S. allies and Taiwan and that type of thing. Do we have an idea of just how potent the Chinese element of disruption would be? It would be like if for God forbid we went to war, that the Chinese could knock out all the communications and the ships and the planes and the troops couldn't talk to each other. It'd be silence. Is that factored into this simulation?
Sure. Okay, and China have been aggressively using all means to disrupt Taiwan communication with outside world, particularly United States and Japan. And therefore, Taiwan have been trying to improve our infrastructure, particularly the military assets, particularly during the peacetime. And in the future, they might encounter Chinese military invasion. And so beside that, I also suggest that Taiwan need to enhance its defense strategy. Also improve Taiwan training of its forces, and also strengthen the infrastructure to define a strict the Chinese invasion, and also that having a more close military exchanges between Taiwan and the Philippines, because the Philippines also encountered the same threat from China and also Japan. And I think that the intelligence sharing and military exchanges between those countries are also crucial, particularly in time of conflicts. And so, but I also think that the both sides, Taiwan and China, do need to have some communication, okay, and with the help of the United States, because I do believe that China do not want to see the war from happening. And the reason I mentioned that, because during the 2008 to 2015, our former president, Ma Ying-jeou, he proposed the so-called the confidence building measures. And both sides did have some hotlines. Okay, so in times of crisis, but at the time, the cross relation actually was pretty good. Okay, so the tension was not as heated like today's. So why I'm trying to say that, besides having a better relation with the U.S. and also with the U.S. airlines, but also try to avoid directly conflicts with China. I think three parts are equally important.
They certainly are. And confidence building measures, open lines of communication are so important. And that's why countries need to talk to each other. They really need to stay in touch so that accidental wars don't start. That's why the nations need to use the United Nations, because you can come together under one roof and hopefully hammer out these problems peacefully, as opposed to hammering them out on the battlefield. But as it's often said, there is no bad peace, but there is no good war. In our last minute, how do you view that statement?
Okay, as I kind of repeat like a few times, that none of the leaders from the three party, the U.S., China, and Taiwan, wanting a war in the Taiwan Strait. If you look at the history from the 1949 to the present, and none of leaders like a war happens. However, it did happen, particularly during the 1950s, mainly due to the insecurity of the China at the time, because the Taiwan and China decided to sign the mutual defense treaty, and particularly that the tension start to surface, and in the year 2010, because at the time the President Obama, he proposed the so-called the rebalancing policy, and China feel insecure. again, so they began to modernize, speed up their modernization, particularly during the Xi Jinping administration. And as I mentioned, that the China military built up is mainly for deterrence and coercion, not for deterrence. So because they know that if they invaded Taiwan, the war can be end up like war in Ukraine. This is not going to be good for their future development. And also that the patriotism is rising in China, and sometimes the demonstration of force from China's side is mainly for domestic consumption. So I think that it's also important that the three party try to avoid war from happening. At the same time, Taiwan need to be prepared, and because the conflicts. Personally, I served in Taiwan military for 22 years. Is likely, and if the war happen, Taiwan need to prepare as soon as possible. Okay, and they had to fight to the end if the Chinese government decided to invade Taiwan.
Exactly. You have no place to go. It's out there in the Taiwan Straits, and you have to be prepared, and we have to keep the lines of communication open to make sure that we don't have some type of accidental war. Well, Dr. Michael Soon, it's a very important topic, and your book has shed a lot of light on this topic. But I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody.
My pleasure. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us today on Global Connections Television.